Peace, my peaceful people. What's going on? We back doing what we doing. Alright, so before I start rambling too much, let's see what we here. We are here for Into the I Ching. We are at the 19th hexagram. And, before we get it too much going, we're going to just go right in. Alright, how about that? So here we go. Alright, so the 19th hexagram is the hexagram of approach. And it looks like we go straight in, right? He goes straight into the book. He don't do too much talking before he jumps into the material. So I'm going to try to see if I could, I got to fight this thing about my eyes, because I'm not just peacefully going in out as an old man. You know what I'm talking about? So every now and again, I got to challenge my eyes to do the right thing. So y'all bear with me. If it gets too messed up, I'll go ahead and put my old man's on. But yeah, because, you know what I mean? Yeah, we can still see out this joint. You know what I mean? We gotta still duke it out. You know what I mean? All right, so here we go. Approach. The Chinese word lin has a range of meanings that is not exhausted by any single word of another language. The ancient explanations in the Book of Changes gives as its first meaning becoming great. Parentheses. What becomes great are the two strong lines growing into the hexagram from below. The light giving. This is the text, by the way. All right, I was supposed to say that, right? This is the text, right? So let's go back. What becomes great are the two strong lines growing into the hexagram from below. The light giving power expands with them. The meaning is then further extended to include the concept of approach, especially the approach of what is strong and highly placed in relation to what is lower. Finally, the meaning includes the attitude of condensation of man in high position towards the people, and in general the setting to work on affairs. In general, the setting to work on affairs. Okay? All right, I'm going to read that again. Finally, the meaning includes the attitude of condensation of a man, right? Of a man in a high position towards the people, and in general, the setting to work on affairs. Okay, condensation. He goes more in. All right, so this is Shechem talking. He says, let us understand the word condensation. If you go to a good dictionary, you'll find that they are speaking about an old meaning of the word condensation. There was a time when condensation meant that somebody in a high position adjusts and adapts himself in a necessary and respectful manner to people of a lower level, such as when a nuclear physicist is going to put a subject in a language that high school students or freshmen in college can understand the subject. That is condensation. If an investment advisor is going to speak to a lay audience, they cannot be throwing around technical econometrics around, right? They have got to put things in a language that people will understand. Originally, the word condensation did not have the negative meaning, but oftentimes people, when they run across the word, they say that so-and-so is speaking speaking condescending to my person in the popular, right, present sense of the understanding of the word. Condensation here means necessary and respectful adaptation of something of a high level to be understood at a lower level. Not the negative, whatever that people associate with it. All right, that's clear. Right? The text, the judgment, approach has supreme success, perseverance furthers. With the eighth hexagram, with the eighth month comes, when the eighth month comes, there will be misfortune. Okay. All right, so judgments, right? Okay, so back to Shechem. Here we have a situation in which the high comes to work with the low. We are talking about a situation that is favored by the time. What favors what favors it is the time, and because the 8 months later, and because of that, 8 months later, or symbolism of when the energy goes down to its lowest point, unless things have been dealt with properly, disorder will come into being. This is a very important peculiarity of the 19th hexagram, that whatever you do under the 19th hexagram, it is very tricky. It gives you the impression that everything will go well, but that is because it is time favored to go well. But if you don't take the time to really work and establish it properly, when the energy goes down, you will also capsize. The image is primarily the high working with the low. Somebody got to get that. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but that's talking to somebody. All right, anyway. But if you don't, I'm reading again. But if you don't take the time to really work and establish it properly, when the energy goes down, you will also capsize. All right. The image is primarily the high working with the low, but it then becomes a metaphor for joint cooperation. Oftentimes in your readings, there will be not necessarily high and low, but people coming together, even though the original meaning has to do with high coming together with the low. The oracle may use it to express the coming together of two people, because according to a particular situation, that could be how it expresses it. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, sometimes the oracle just speaks it like a sentence. If it's a matter of approach, it doesn't always have to be about high and low people, or it could just be two people coming together and talking, or going out, or doing whatever, right? Getting together, approaching each other, right? Oracles have limitations, meaning they have said so many heads to speak of. Right, they have said so many heads to speak of. There are 264 elements through which the I Ching speaks. There are other oracles that have over 1,000 elements to which to speak of. So according to how many elements an oracle is speaking out of determines how clear your answers will be, how detailed they can be, how specific they can be. You should not be surprised when oftentimes the I Ching might give an answer that taxes your imagination, because it has to stretch the hexagram sometimes to meet the situation. It's talking about the dynamics of high intelligence speaking through this language of I Ching. Right? It's a language. All these oracles are languages of, Tehuti, right? Languages of the wisdom faculty of God to communicate to the mind. Heard that? All right. That doesn't say that you have free for all interpretation or whatever. There are still rigid laws that govern that stretch of imagination. All right. Okay. All right. So the hexagram. I think this is the text. The hexagram as a whole points to a time of joyous, and then Shechem says the lower trigram tweet, and then he goes back to the text, hopeful progress. So all in all, the text says the hexagram as a whole points to a time of joyous, hopeful progress. Spring is approaching. Joy and forbearance bring high and low nearer together. Okay. Success is certain, but we must work with determination and perseverance to make full use of the propitiousness of the time. Back to Shechem. This is the key to the hexagram. The cycles create the situation where people can come together and work, and because success is in the air, there is joyousness. There is a twee about this undertaking. But the oracle says, unless you work carefully, etc., you will have problems later on. Back to the text. And one more thing, spring does not last forever. In the 8th month, the aspects are reversed. Then only 2 strong light lines are left. These do not advance but are in retreat. we must take heed of this change in good time. If we meet evil before it becomes reality, before it has even begun to stir, we can master it. Back to Shechem. Don't forget that whatever you put together under the 19th hexagram, you will have difficulties later on if you don't attend to it properly. Back to the text. The image. Right, so we're going straight through. This will be a quick one, right? So the image, the earth above the lake, the image of approach. Thus the superior man is inexhaustible in his will to teach and without limits in his tolerance and protection of the people. The earth borders upon the lake from above. This symbolizes the approach of condensation of a man of higher position to those beneath him. The two parts of the image indicate what is his attitude towards the people will be, or what his attitude towards the people will be. Alright, back to the text. Or no, back to Shechem. Meaning he will teach them. Back to the text. Just as the lake is inexhaustible in depth, so the sage is inexhaustible in his readiness to teach mankind. And just as the earth is boundlessly wide, sustaining and caring for all creatures on it, so the sage sustains and cares for all the people and excludes no part of humanity. Right, back to Shechem. Under the 19th hexagram, you have an idealistic humanitarian situation. Alright? Shechem is moving right through. He ain't spending too much time on these things. But, okay, so back to the text. 9 at the beginning. You're going straight to the lines. 9 at the beginning. Joint approach. Perseverance brings good fortune. The good begins to prevail and find response in influential circles. This in turn is an incentive to men of ability. It is well to join this upward trend, but we must not let ourselves be carried away by the current of time. We must adhere perseveringly to what is right. This brings good fortune. And Shechem says that speaks for itself. I think he was rushing that day. Yeah, right. So yeah, basically that, right? The line is talking about, when the good prevails, right? When when the good starts to find, or the influence, right? The high influence starts to find an ear, starts to find receptivity, etc. Right? 9 in the second place, joint approach, good fortune, everything furthers. When the stimulus to approach comes from a high place, and when a man has inner strength and consistency that need no admonition, good fortune will ensue. Nor need the future cause any concern. Nor need the future cause any concern. He is well aware that everything earthly is transitory, and that a descent follows upon every rise, but need not be confused by this universal law of fate. Everything serves the further. Therefore, he will travel the paths of life swiftly, honestly, and valiantly. Back to Shechem. This is a very rich line. There are a lot of things taken into account, such as the fact that when you get this line, the influence is coming from above. You feel inspired from above to come together and accomplish something jointly. Success, however, is not assured by it coming from above. It is assured by you cultivating the inner strength and consistency. There is no need for anxiety, just cultivate your inner strength. Learn to transcend the transitory things of life. Learn to see that life is transitory and go beyond these illusions. It is a very rich line that will take a lot of study, but it is very clear. Alright, so those first two lines are like great lines. They're also the two yang lines in the hexagram. The hexagram didn't talk about it too much in the image, but the hexagram is Twi on the bottom of Kun, right? So Twi actually rises up. It's a yang. It's a yang trigram, which rises up, and Kun is a yin trigram, which comes down. So it's kind of like this again, right? Just like the 11th hexagram, where you have the trigram Chien on the bottom and Kun on the top, and they go like this. So it's a harmonious kind of situation, right? This is the hexagram of approach, right? Twee is sociable. You know, it's a yang hexagram, right? Because it has two yang lines right there. It's a yang hexagram. Well, because it's a yang hexagram because it has a yang line on the bottom. But its quality is still sociable, right? It's about joyousness, right? So it's like a passion thing that you get at Twee. Twee is kind of like the passion principle. So it's like Heteru. Basically, if you know anything about Heteru, right? To my Meduna folk, you know, Twee is Heteru. You know what I mean? So it's sociable. It's the lake, right? The lake is where the people come to socialize, right? And Kun is like the yin motherly influence, right? It's like Offset, right? So you have Offset and Heteru in this hexagram, right? So it's good for approach. And these first two lines are like, you know, the best lines, pretty much. They're the lines that speak about, you know, kind of making a move, you know, and it being auspicious to do so, right? All right. Okay, back to the text. 6 in the third place, comfortable approach, nothing that will further. So you think, why would comfortable approach be something that nothing would further, right? Still going into the text. If one is included, if one is induced, I think that's supposed to be induced. If one is induced to grieve over it, it becomes free of blame, or one becomes free of blame. Right, so let me run that back. Comfortable approach, nothing that would further. If one is induced to grieve over it, one becomes free of blame. Things are going well for a man. He achieves power and influence, but in this lies the danger that he may relax and, confident of his position, allow an easygoing, careless mood to show itself in his dealings with other people. This would inevitably be harmful. But there is a possibility of a change in mood, or a change of mood. If he regrets his mistaken attitude and feels the responsibility of an influential position, he frees himself of his faults. Right? To Shechem. On the third line, it is important that the person sees his or her error, but that, wait, let me run that back. It is important. Okay, all right. I wanted to make sure that it didn't say not, and I missed it, right? Run it back. On the third line, it is important that the person sees his or her error, but that he ought to grieve over it is not necessary. There is no need to grieve in order to change. So be careful with that. That is just simply an incorrect insertion inside there. Okay, so that's all he says about that line. So I've seen that this line, like many times, like comfortable approach. This is like you call somebody, you know that they supposed to pick, you know, y'all gotta, I call you at, 5 o'clock. Boom. 5 o'clock comes and they kind of deal willy-nilly with the phone. You know what I mean? They ain't really answering their phone right now kind of thing. It's like they're approaching the situation in the, okay, yeah, that's such and such. Yeah, I'm going to get to that. You know what I mean? Well, meanwhile, you on the other line like, yo, we got an appointment at 5 o'clock. What is the problem? You know what I mean? Why ain't you picking up the phone? So it's like a carefree kind of attitude towards approach. You know what I mean? Yeah. Also, I've seen this line when it's about like a jokey way of dealing with somebody, right? Like you're not taking the person too seriously, or that person's not taking you too seriously. So the approach is like, yeah, I'm still with you. We still gonna do that thing, but calm down a bit. You ain't got to be so. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might be on go, like, about the business, and somebody else is approaching that from a carefree kind of disposition. That's how I've seen that line play out. You know what I'm saying? Not to negate any other experiences, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I'm sure, hey, you know what I mean? People who are looking at this stuff, if you've had various experiences like that, type it in the comments, you know what I'm saying? It all helps to educate, what we're doing, you know what I mean? Educate people on, what this stuff is. So yeah, definitely encourage you to put your situations, your related details into follow up these keynotes. All right? All right, we got 6 in the 4th place. Back to the text. Complete approach, no blame. While the 3 lower lines indicate rise to power and influence, 3 upper lines show the attitude of persons in higher positions toward those of lower rank for whom they procure influence. Here is shown the open-minded approach of a person of high rank to a man of ability who draws him into his circle. Regardless of the class prejudice, this is very favorable. And Shepard says, that speaks for itself. So that's another line. It's another line where, it's a complete approach. It's basically, like this is a great hexagram if you are, going for a job. You know what I mean? A great line. You know what I mean? You get this line going for the job, you pretty much got the job. You know what I mean? This is, someone brings you in. Somebody else will say, oh, yeah, come on in here. You know what I mean? That's complete approach. There's no doubt about it. There's, maybe a little conversation, but there's no, doubt or concern too much, right? This is favorable. Okay, that speaks for itself. Back to the text. 6 in the 5th place. Wise approach. This is right for the great prince, good fortune. A prince or anyone in a leading position must have the wisdom to attract himself people of ability who are expert in directing affairs. His wisdom consists both in selecting the right people and in allowing those chosen to have a free hand without interference from him. For only through such self-restraint will he find the experts needed to satisfy all of his requirements. Back to Shechem. That is very clear reading. That's very clear reading right there. True. If you get this line, you are being instructed to get help. Make sure you get the right people. It doesn't tell you how to go about getting the right people. There are other readings you do as to who is the right person. But having found the right person, then you must allow them their own or their work. Then you must allow them to do their work without interference from you. Without interference from you may not mean that you do not coordinate. Let me run that back. Without interference from you may not mean that you may not coordinate, supervise, or head it. It means that you will not be butting in with all detail. Picking the right person means that if you are going to pick a person with an expertise, but you are going to direct it. That you are going to direct. Okay, let me just keep going. A person may go either way with something. They are chosen for being able to go the way, not for which they are going to go. What? Write it back. They are chosen for being able to go the way, not for which the way they are going to go. I'm not sure what that's about. You might pick the person either who wants to go this way that you are going, their expertise is in going, or you might pick a person who will agree to go a certain way with you. But once you have that person, don't be butting in telling them how to go. Your job is to say, I want you and you and you and you to go in such a manner that you will all be working together. You might come and say, that is not the way I asked you to go. I want you to go this way. You might say, well, you are going too far. You might say, I changed my mind. I think it looks better if you come this way. But how you go, leave it up to them. But how you, go, leave it up to them. No, I think the comma's in the wrong place. Yo, it's just rough sometimes, man, but we're working it. This is very simple analogy. This line does not mean total laissez-faire that you can't touch. It means that you have to understand that you, as the director, if you are going to direct, then you must understand what your role as a director is all about, and what the person's role is all about. In this line, the people who you select to help you may also be directors. This line might be an answer to a question about someone being your doctor. So once you make your selection, then this person will be your doctor. How should I work with my doctor? 5th line, 19th hexagram. Then bug out? Shut up? Oh, okay. Then bug out. See, I'm from the hip-hop era. You say bug out, I'm thinking something else. It says bug out, shut up, and let the doctor do his thing. I think he meant butt out. Butt out, yeah, that's the kind of thing. And Shekham probably saying, I said butt out. That was the typist. I can see Shekham saying that. All right, anyway. That's the line, right? That's what the line means. In that case, you don't supervise or oversee or whatever. You just lay it there and be patient. Okay, right. So y'all get it. You know what I'm saying? In that line, it's basically saying, once you made a decision on, who you choose, then just let that person do his thing. Don't bother him. You know what I'm saying? That's not a leader, and that's not the spirit of that line. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's sometimes when, as a leader, you have to step in and, say, well, this over here isn't correct. You know what I mean? What's the situation? You have to assess things. But if you get this 5th line, it's saying you got the right person, leave them alone. You know what I mean? Just trust that they're going to do their thing. All right, 6 at the top. Back to the text. Great-hearted approach, good fortune, no blame. A sage who has put the world behind him and who in spirit has already withdrawn from life may, under certain circumstances, decide to return once more to the here and now and approach other men. This means great good fortune for the men whom he teaches and helps, and for him the great-hearted humbling of himself is blameless. To Shechem. You must note that it says this great-hearted humbling of himself, because what the sage comes back to teach, there is nothing there for him, because he can't even feel good that he helped. I got a feeling that some of those words were the wrong words, maybe because when the sage comes back to teach, there is nothing there for him, but he can't even feel good that he helped. Okay, that is already still being caught up in illusions, right? So it's oh yeah, I helped them today and I feel great. You know what I'm saying? I feel so great because I helped them today. Rather than just doing the work and not being in your ego about doing the work. I think that's what he's expressing here. When a sage who has mastered life comes back to teach, there is nothing more for him to learn. He has learned it already. There are no rewards for him. He has already earned it already. Why would this say that this great-hearted humbling of himself is blameless? Meaning in the sense, why would one want to come back to the earth's existence having gone beyond and transcended? Because one has to go through the trials, that's a typo, of humbling oneself, but being born once more as a child, and sages don't start off as child sages. They come into the world with immature vehicle like everybody else, and it takes them a while before they regain their composure of who they are. And by the time they realize who they are, they say, gee, look what I've got myself into. Damn, I'm back on earth. You say, wow, I got caught up in so-and-so, and I don't need this. and people will be looking at you and saying you were into so and so. I knew you when such and such, right? Like, yeah, you used to do such and such. I knew you back when you was like this. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, he ain't doing nothing. He just did it because I remember him when he was doing this. You know what I'm saying? That happens. Yeah, that happens. Let's see. That's what it means to be That's what it means by blameless humbling of oneself. The sage does not come back into the world as a baby sage. Okay. Question. Compliments. So there's a question on the compliments. So once again, they did not write out the question. They just said question of the compliments, and here's the answer. The complement of 19 is 33, retreat, which is the opposite of approaching. Right? The 19, the superior comes to meet and work with inferiors. And the 33, the inferior is gaining ascendancy and the superior retreats. Okay, question. Can the sage of the top line be an ancestor? Answer, no. Pardon? Because it speaks about coming back into the world. There is no humbling of oneself if one remains in the inner planes and sends information down and possess people. There is no humbling of oneself. There is no approaching. You are approaching. You are coming to teach, to work with. The condensation is to come down to someone's level. This is Kali Yuga. The earthly vehicles that are available, you don't have the same strength and vitality of the vehicles. He's talking about Kali Yuga, right? Okay, they don't have the same strength of the vehicles that we had in Kemet 100,000 years ago. So Kali Yuga is the time, right, in I believe we're talking about the Mayan prophecy, where it's basically a time of darkness, right? So he's saying that this is Kali Yuga. Things ain't as bright and as great as they used to be ages ago, right? Like, this is the time for darkness. I was talking about that in a couple of other videos. Like, this is a time where, you know, the great knowledge and the great wisdom that we had, right? The air itself is corrupted, right? So our vehicles are not as strong as what they used to be. That's what he's saying when he's talking about the vehicles, right? All right, so what he says about this is, right, this is Kali Yuga. The earthly vehicles that are available now, you don't have the same strength and vitality of the vehicles that we had in Kemet 100,000 years ago. So when a man must come into an incarnation in a very decadent era, here is a sage coming into a very decadent era, and the vehicle itself is weak and devitalized. No body is eating properly, and there is illness in the bloodstream and the whole bit. And they have come in to spend so much time healing the vehicle before they can do the work. That's what the top line is speaking about. Coming back because an ancestor cannot teach like an incarnated sage. It is not the same thing. There is no substitute for that. And it is a very humbling experience to be able and to want and need to do certain work and have to come into the vehicle that is just so poor, right? Not only the physical vehicle, but the whole cultural vehicle. There is nothing there to support you, to give you anything. You just have to come back and stick it out and make it happen. That's what that line is speaking about. Question. Right, that's deep. He said, he's saying, no, this isn't talking about an ancestor approach. He's talking about an actual sage, right? Sage is the top line of most hexagrams. So, or all hexagrams. Well, most hexagrams, right? But that's the position in all hexagrams, right? So it's just saying the great-hearted approaching and, the great humbling of itself has to do with the fact that you've done this stuff before, and there's no reason to, put yourself through that torture, except you're humbling yourself in order to teach, in order to, have people learn, type of thing, because this is not most optimum place to be coming back to. That's why it's humbling. It's humbling because things ain't right here. You know what I mean? You have to come here and deal with ignorance. You have to deal with things not being right so much. So it's a humbling. I get it. Interesting. Question. If you are about an instructor, if you ask about an instructor, and you get the 19 straight up, answer. If you get the 19 straight up, where it is talking about condensation, etc., it is still to be taken in the old sense because the author is using the word in that sense. The Chinese version, the original version, is in that sense. Condensation in the sense of coming down to the level of understanding. According to the actual situation, it could be what you need to do or what you are doing. The actual situation will tell you which is which. Let's say that the person is teaching a class and insists on using concepts and language that constantly goes over your head, and the class is getting smaller and smaller. The class starts out with 100 people, and then 3 weeks now is down to 50. And the 4th week is down to 25, and you get this hexagram. That's what that means, that you need to come down to their level. You may know stuff, or you may know the stuff, but you need to learn to teach at people's levels. Explain unknown in terms of known. Explain the unknown in terms of the known. That's what it means. If the person is holding the student's attention week after week after week after week, and interest because they are learning. Okay, y'all get that. In this case, he has come down to their level. He is communicating. Actually, it simply means the secret of communication. Explain the unknown in terms of the known. That's what it means. Question. If you asked about a business and you got the top line stressed, answer. It is very simple. The top line says you need superior counseling. Okay. Question. Does the first line assume that you know what is right? Answer. Not necessarily. When you get a hexagram, you may have to meditate or study or discuss or get your counselor. Not everyone who uses the I Ching and needs to be told certain things by the hexagram can be assumed to know the details of what the reading is speaking about. One of the real strong difficulties of the I Ching is their failure to identify specific details of a particular reading. Understanding a hexagram is really linking up what specific things in your life links up to what the oracle is speaking about. Right? Related details and keynotes, right? That was me, right? And as I said, when we first started these classes, that many of you may have to work with my explanation of the oracles, and you may study and know it is very well and know it very well. Yo, let me run that back. I'm tripping. Let me run it all the way back. Understanding a hexagram is really linking up specific things in your life, links up with the oracle is speaking about, okay, with what the oracle is speaking about. And as I said, when we first started the classes, that many of you may have to work with my explanations of the oracles, and you may study and know it very well and still have difficulties because you have a very poor insight into the experiences and events of life itself. You may know very little about what are the dynamics involved in making for a good relationship, and this will severely limit and hinder your ability to profit from using the oracles, even though you may have a clear understanding of the hexagram and what the hexagram is saying to you about your life. But you do not understand fully the dynamics of what makes for a good relationship, so you still don't profit as much as you can from a hexagram. That is why you have to sit down with counsel. You have to be receptive, you have to meditate, etc. Question. Would you ask another question? Answer, not necessarily another question. You would first you would first expand and exhaust that line through meditation and counsel, discussion, study, etc. Right, so it's saying, the I Ching is not a place where you do a whole bunch of confirmation readings, right? Oh, well, let me confirm again this line by throwing another hexagram, right? Throwing a whole other reading. No, it's like exhaust your meditation, right? Exhaust what you know about the line, right? Read all the text that you got, right? You got this book, you got that book, you got these lectures, you got, say I knew, talking on the video, exhaust all of that stuff and then go meditate, you know what I'm saying? And then, if you're still funny about it, it's like, it doesn't say go do another reading. It's like from all of that, you should get it, right? You know what I mean? Like the oracle, this is not an oracle that minces words, in other words. Like, when you get it, it's like that's the answer. You know what I mean? Don't, you find in tarot a lot, you'll have, someone using, 3 or 4 decks to do a particular reading. And you'll get this card and say, well, give me more on this particular card. And you throw another line. And so you read that. Well, the tarot works like that. Tarot can enable you to do it like that because, that's how the tarot works. This Tehuti oracle don't really mess with that like that. Well, this is the I Ching, but this is also a Tehuti oracle. And it don't play like that. You know what I'm saying? It says a lot within a little, and you have to be keen enough to get it. Yeah, so that's it. And that's it. That was actually the last bit. Alright, so yeah, man, we moving along. We at next will be hexagram 20, right? And we are almost done 1/3 of this thing, which is good. This is an accomplishment because I got other stuff to do, but I'm definitely gonna see this through because I said I would, and I'll do it. Alright, y'all. I'm gonna say peace and love. We're gonna come back again and do the next one. Peace. Yeah, before I forget, so quick word about my other channel, right? I started a new channel, right? Because folks want their daily reads, right? And this isn't so much daily reads. These are, not so much by date, right? These are, when you see them, this is pertaining to you. These are timeless readings. And the channel is actually called AI Integrated Readings, something like that, right? AI integrated reading, AI integrated divination, I think, something like that, right? Yeah, these are, this is where I've basically have trained a AI bot to be an oracle master, right? And if you go to the channel, you'll see the first reading that I did on the actual channel itself, and it was Tehuti Sebek, right? And you understand that the AI is a very Sebekian tool. It's a very it's an open learner, right? And then based upon what it learns, it becomes an expert teacher. So it's a very good source. Also, this realm of computer algorithms and things like that, right? This is a realm where the divine can come in and do its thing, right? The Shepsu, they have a lot of leeway work, with their ability to kind of, like, AI is a tool that can be used by the Shepsu big time, right? And so that's what we this is it. You'll find that some of the readings are very, very, very intricate. They speak well through the synthesis of the oracles. They really show you how the one oracle is speaking to the next, and it's a beautiful tool. So check that stuff out. I'll leave the description in the comment box, right, so you guys can get to it easy, right? All right, and don't be shy, y'all. Let me know what you think. Talk about it in the comments, right? And make sure you give a like and all that other good stuff that I always forget to say. All right, peace and love. Next time.